All right, everybody, we are live with that Combatcast, and as we lower that there, and we're ready to talk about some news, some fights coming up. But before we do, Chevy, tell them what's coming up on the program.
All right, February 25th, we'll be previewing UFC Fight Night Krylov versus Spann. That's an exciting matchup. And then March 4th, we're back with the UFC 285, the pay-per-view, Jones versus Gane. Huge heavyweight fight for the new heavyweight title since Ngannou has vacated. And then March 11th, we're back with a bantamweight fight I am super excited for. UFC Fight Night, Jan versus Dvalishvili. Merab versus Pieter. So
Merab versus Jan is a great stylistic matchup. I gotta tell you, they're doing Jan no favors.
No.
This is like the worst matchup I think you could have gave Jan.
Yeah, but also I think this is the worst matchup for Merab too. I think he runs through almost everyone else in that division, but Jan poses a very difficult task for him. So
yeah, they almost cancel each other out, which sometimes makes a boring fight, or sometimes ends up being this awesome striking fight when these two wrestlers count.
Yeah. So we'll see, but we just have one piece of news we want to talk about really quick. Who knows how accurate it is, but apparently Aldo and Mayweather are in talks for a boxing match. We know Aldo has already had his first pro boxing match, which he won by decision. And then he is he's scheduled to fight Jeremy Stevens on Jorge Masvidal's boxing event. And now he's in talks with Floyd Mayweather for an exhibition bout.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see Aldo keep him busy. He's one of my favorite guys from the UFC. I hope he has a little bit of success doing this. We said off air, I said, it's very unlikely. Nothing would make me more happy in this world if Aldo somehow KO'd Floyd Mayweather. Just because, Floyd always just picks these fights, and Aldo's just such this constant warrior. It would just be, he would be the guy. And by the way, as long as Floyd keeps doing this, there will be a day where he just runs out of luck. Like somebody's going to catch this guy. Just what happens.
Yeah, what I just thought about when you said that is Conor couldn't knock him out. Obviously, there's a little bit between Aldo and Conor. I know they're friendly now, but do we get a boxing match between Aldo and McGregor after that if he somehow manages to knock out Floyd or beat Floyd? That'd be interesting.
Man. I think you could almost bring Aldo back in an MMA fight against Conor at that point if Aldo wanted to do it, and Conor would probably definitely attract him.
Yeah, the size difference between them at this point is so huge. I don't know if that's really feasible, but Aldo certainly an interesting storyline. Like Aldo's like, yeah, I'll get fat for that.
Yeah, but that was good.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about last week's card, UFC 284. We're just going to go over the main card. Not too much going on the prelims. First fight, Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menafield.
All right. Great fight to open up this card. Really back and forth. At the end of the day, majority draw. I think you should run this one back. But there's a point in this here I want to bring up where Alonzo was fence grabbing. Excuse me. Didn't mean to. But Mark Goddard, he called for the fence grab. He basically took a point away, and that affected this fight. And I say good for Mark Goddard, because I think in situations like this, when you're doing something like that, it's clearly affecting the fight. And even with a low blow, even if it's clearly an accident, if it's affecting the outcome of the fight, that's not your opponent's fault. That's still up to you at the end of the day. If I get into a car accident, and I didn't stop and I rear end you, I'm still probably at fault. I still was probably going too fast, So good on Goddard. I hope we see more stuff like this, even though people probably weren't a fan of the majority draw. But great fight. I hope they run it back. If they don't, I'd say either one of these guys would make an interesting fight for Paul Craig, who's on a 2-fight losing streak right now and could lose a big fight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they should run this one back. I agree with you about Mark Goddard taking the point. I mean, they know the rules when they go in there. they don't need to be hearing a bunch of warnings. If it was a fence grab where it didn't look like Crute was really going to get the takedown, I understand giving him a warning. But he was already on his way down. That fence grab completely stopped him from being taken down, changed the course of the fight. And obviously, Crute's ground game is where he was most comfortable because he was getting pieced up on the feet. So that made a big change to the fight. Mark took the point, and I think that was the right call. I'm okay with the draw. I don't have I don't know if either fighter gets their win bonus or whatever when it comes to draws. That's the only thing that makes me a little bit wary of them, but I'm okay with fighters going to draws scorecard wise for sure.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was the right call personally, with the point being taken. Alonzo was definitely doing well on the feet. I'm shocked that this went to decision, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
predicted a finish for sure, and I thought we are going to get it, but Jimmy Crute just has a great chin on him. He ate a lot of jabs, a lot of heavy punches from Menafield. He landed a few, not as many as I thought he would, but the ground game is where he should have won the fight. But I hope they run it back. If not, Paul Craig is a good matchup, but I really would like to see them run this one back.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll move on to when we did get a finish in. Justin Tafa versus our Connecticut local Parker Porter.
Not a good day for the local. Justin Tafa. This was about as definitive as it gets. All his victories, I believe, are by KO. He's still very new to the game. Not a lot really to say. It was just two heavyweights stepped right up there, clanging and banging, and Tafa took him out. I'll throw a crazy matchup idea because this is not really probably a guy ranking-wise he should be even getting, but a fun fight. Guy that probably needs a win, Derek Lewis. Tafa's probably like the perfect style guy for him. Lewis is on a 4-fight losing streak. Dana loves him. This would be kind of a bounce back fight, probably. No offense to Tafa, but then again, when you hit like he does, anything can happen. So,
right, yeah, I think matchup wise, that'd be good. That the UFC definitely wants Derek Lewis to get a win, because he's so exciting. But he's only marketable if he, there's a chance he's winning these fights, and at this point, it's a slim chance. So I think matchup wise, that's good for him. They're looking for a UFC or for a Black Beast win, so that could be a good one. And if not, if he loses, that skyrockets Justin Tafa, who in his own right is an exciting fighter. Like you said, all his wins are by knockout finish. So
you put a guy like that, Australian guy too. Next thing you know, he shoots to the rankings. Now you're looking at a fight with him and a guy like Tai Tuivasa too, who's also a lot of fun.
Right, exactly, yeah. As far as the fight with Parker Porter, I think Parker was just a little too willing to trade on the feet with someone he had noticeably large advantage on the ground over. So I think that's just kind of poor game planning or fight IQ there. Someone with his experience shouldn't be making a mistake like that. I think he just either underestimated Tafa on the feet or overestimated his own game on the feet. He has a pretty well-rounded ground game. I think he should have taken him down, but I'm not a fighter. I don't know, but in 50-50 for hindsight, but good luck to him going forward. Hopefully he doesn't get cut. I know he has a few losses, so hopefully they keep him around. All right, we'll move on to another super exciting fight. Very excited for this fight when it got announced, and it delivered for sure. Jack Della Maddalena versus Randy Brown.
Man, I think Jack is about as sharp as he can be right now. Like everywhere this fight goes, whether it's on the ground, whether it's on his feet, like he is just super impressive. I'm very interested what this guy can do. I'll let you kind of elaborate a little more on him, but like as far as a future opponent too, whenever you got a guy that looks like this sharp to me, this tough, bring out old reliable Neil Magny. Where are you at? Welterweight division. Neil Magny will take on anybody. This guy wants to move up the rankings. I'd say that's a fight to make.
Yeah, that's an awesome fight to make, actually. Poor Neil Magny, though, can't catch a break. But Vicente Luque is one and actually, I think somebody else mentioned that, like Jack may have mentioned it himself,
Yeah.
but I think matchup wise, that's a good progression up the rankings for him. Matchup wise, exciting matchup too. Two super great strikers. But as far as the fight against Randy Brown looked excellent when this fight started.
Mm-hmm.
He looked fantastic using movement and his range, but Jack was just patient enough and marched him down. And when he found that opening, he had the touch of death. I mean, as soon as he touched him, Randy's feet were going all over the place. And, he was one punch and he was already finished. So
Yeah.
Jack jumped on his back and finished him with a rear naked choke. But really, it was that right hand that finished the fight. So
The only guy I feel like is looking as impressive elsewhere to me in terms of everywhere was like Bo Nickel, but Bo Nickel has not had this kind of level of competition yet.
right.
We're seeing Bo at early age where he's handling people like on the feet and on the mat, obviously, real quick. Jack's looking this sharp everywhere, but he's taken on already like top 15 guys. So we'll see. Yeah.
Or a Cosmot. You know what? I'm
Yeah.
picturing this as a Cosmot before Cosmot fought Gilbert Burns. We need Jack to fight somebody who's going to give him a fight like Gilbert Burns did.
Sure.
We need to see, when he gets finally pushed to those deep waters, what he's made of. I have full confidence in the guy at this point. I think he's the truth. But that's his only question mark at this part. He looks so dominant. We just need to see if the fight makes it past the first and second round, what he's made of.
Sidebars. Chimaev done at welterweight right now? Do we know?
I mean, he hasn't said for sure, but I have heard people talking about he's probably done. He's just going to go on to 185. I mean, when you miss weight by 8 pounds, whether the UFC was involved or not, conspiracy theorists, I just think he's just too big. Every picture you see of him on social media, he's even bigger than he was before. So I think maybe he's just trying to solidify 185 as his main title. Yeah, and like you said, I think he might be big enough to go between 185 and 205 possibly. So we'll see. But I would assume he's probably done at 170 unless he gets a title shot. Or I know they were talking about that Colby Covington fight. That would be a huge fight too. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he tries to make it for one of those giant fights.
If he could do the 170 for a little while, like, man, this is a guy that could be like a 3-division champion now. Like, he's got the potential. Like, when you look at the current landscape, like, there's no
he has the skills.
Yeah, sure. and Pereira and Jamal Hill, when you talk about, against the grappling of a guy like Chimaev,
yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the co-main event. Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett.
Man, I couldn't have been happier. I like Emmett, but Yair Rodriguez, I was saying it last week on this show. I've been saying it for a while. Sorry, I'm doing this to you today, man. I'm sorry. Sorry about the editing later. But anyway, Yair, I say it all the time. Like, he's a guy we talk about. You can look at it as a negative. He takes a lot of time off between fights. But every time this guy comes back, he looks better and better. I feel like there was this problem he had a couple years ago with the UFC where he didn't want to take one of their fights. And I feel like almost he's taken the boxing motto where he's trying to build himself up. He got a win over the Korean Zombie. Super exciting fight where he finished in the last second. And ever since then, I think he bought himself some goodwill. And, he's been able to take time off, and he's doing one fight a year. And every time he comes back, he looks excited. So UFC doesn't really bother him. And now he's the interim featherweight champ. I'm so proud of this guy just because of the way you can see all the work he puts in. He talked about after this fight what a warrior Josh Emmett was. And, don't ever doubt yourself. You're a warrior. You're going to be back. This guy's a class act, despite the fact that he's been emotional at times. I think he was young. I think he's just passionate. But I think at the end of the day, like, he's a good guy. And I'm really excited to see him in this position. There's no question the next fight for him is Volkanovski. whether Volkanovski, you want to do a rematch with Islam down the road. Obviously, I think Volkanovski now, especially since he doesn't have lightweight gold, he wants to keep his featherweight gold. This is the fight to make. And I will say this, although I'm going to favor Volkanovski because the guy to me looked like he just hung in with the best fighter in the world pound for pound, clearly, and some people thought he won. I didn't. We'll get to that in a minute. Yair put on the kind of performance, and again, he keeps getting better and better. I can't totally dismiss him against a guy like Volk. Like, it'll be an interesting fight. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, originally last week I picked Emmett to win, but I wanted Yair to win. So I'm glad that he did win. He looked dominant. Like you said, the improvements he makes between each fight are just leaps and bounds. He looks so great. He looks super composed. Obviously, he used his reach very well and picked when he would engage in those dangerous combination phone booth fights with Emmett. So he picked the right time. Emmett just could not get in on him. He looked pretty defeated pretty early on. So as far as Volkanovski, I think stylistically, he poses a very difficult puzzle for Volkanovski for sure. If he can use his reach, which he has phenomenal reach, especially with all the kicks he throws, if he can use his reach to keep Volkanovski away from him, he could outpoint him and maybe frustrate him and hurt him. With that being said, Volkanovski, obviously, if he's not pound for pound number one, depending on whatever rankings you're looking at today, he's number two. So, we know Yair's wrestling used to be his weak game, but also he's shown great improvements with submissions off his back. Obviously, he tapped out Emmett, but just the amount of attempts he's thrown up, if you look back to that Ortega fight, he looks very active off his back now. So, I don't know. I'm excited for that fight for sure. Much more excited for it after watching this fight than I was beforehand. So,
yeah.
Yair's the man. Super exciting guy to watch. I do agree with you. I think he's matured quite a bit. Super classy in his win. And I think he's where he belongs now. So I'm looking forward to that unification bout. All right, so let's talk about the featherweight champ and the lightweight champ, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski.
Man, it all boils down to, what does ground control mean? And we've been, I think, brought up the fact that if you can hold a guy down, whether it's exciting or not, he's winning the fight, right? Even if he's not doing a ton with it. Now,
those are the rules of the sport that we watch.
That's as far as we know, right? But there seems to be a big debate about that, and it probably has to do with the rules are a little unclear state to state sometimes too. This was a competitive fight at the end of the day too. All these rounds were close, and I did not walk away thinking that Islam. I walked away thought Islam won. I didn't necessarily walk away that he was clear cut the better fighter. I remember saying to myself, if this was we only do 5 rounds. But if this was longer and we had more rounds, Volk is looking like the stronger guy at times. By the way, that's not a knock on Islam, because as tired as Islam was looking, he, like great champions, found a way to switch up another gear when he had to, as did Volk. What I saw was 2 fighters that were very evenly matched, and I saw the wrestling being the difference this time. Is Volk the kind of guy, if they meet again now, he's kind of, downloaded this and he's going to be better off? Maybe. But is Islam the kind of guy, it's the kind of fight I'd love to see again. That being said, we're not going to do this right away. That's just not how these things work. I'd be shocked anyway. I'd say Volk is going to defend that featherweight title. And since I've picked an opponent for everyone else, I'm going to say Islam, give him as close as you can for a money fight. Connor's not going to probably be available anytime soon. We don't know when Connor's coming back. It's going to be Chandler. He's got to win that fight too. He could fight the winner of that, but I would say Dustin Poirier's waiting around. Poirier is still looking good. He's coming off that victory over Chandler. I'd say Poirier. I mean, I know he's gotten title shots before, but guys, when you look at the rankings, like he's the guy I would say to go to next.
Right. He always beats the guy coming up to be the contender. He kind of stops those guys. And
they
also,
never fought before. Just throw that out there too.
Yeah. And matchup wise, like I think that's a good matchup because Dustin's boxing is so great, but he has the range that Volkanovski lacked. He's very strong. So I don't know. But yeah, I'd be down for that fight for sure. But going back to Islam and Alexander, I really would like to see this fight again. I know we won't see it again immediately. I don't think we should because Volkanovski should go back to featherweight to defend that title. But if we saw this again, I think we need one more time to really determine who the best fighter is. I think both guys, and Volkanovski talked about this in his post-fight interview in the cage. I think both guys underestimated each other. Volkanovski underestimated Islam's striking, and Islam underestimated Volkanovski's grappling, as did I. His wrestling and grappling was super impressive to me. But which guy makes the better adjustments going forward from there? Whoever does that, I think we could see a fairly dominant performance from one or the other in a second fight. But right now, we'll just talk about that first fight. So, yeah, like you said, super close fight. I also agree with you. I had Islam winning the fight, but 3-2. Very close fight. Wouldn't have been upset if it had been called the other way for sure. But really, it comes down to what you said, that control time. And you can think that there's nothing really happening. And, that's the way the rules are, unfortunately. I don't disagree with that. Do I think that you should be able to win around by just holding onto someone's back? Like, yes, that's a dangerous position, but it's also, I think it says more about Islam's inability to finish Volkanovski when he has him in a body triangle and has his back for 3 minutes than it does about, Volkanovski losing. I think it's more impressive to be able to fight something like that off. It's such a disadvantageous position for Volkanovski. For him to be able to survive says more to me than being able to hold him down there.
I think there needs to be a way that maybe we could grade this where you give ample time and we look at it and we go, okay, you're dominant, or okay, you're not advancing, you can't escape. This is kind of just a stalemate. Give this guy a point for a takedown, but nothing else is happening.
Right.
If you're just holding him, then we should just call this a takedown. But if you're holding him and you're trying to work and do stuff and the other guy can't do anything at all, okay, then maybe add some more
control. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that's why the 10-point must system does not really work for the sport. So, until they come up with something different, this is what we have. So, with what we have, Islam won that fight, I think. I know the third round was the sway round, and Islam landed the more significant punches on the feet. And then obviously had the control on the ground. So I think a lot of people are swayed a little bit by the underdog mentality for Volkanovski because you expect less from him because he's a featherweight. I tried to take that out of it, and I tried to be objective because obviously I wanted Volkanovski to win. I didn't think he was going to, but I wanted him to. And so I tried to be as objective as possible. I think Islam won. So
yeah,
we go from here. I think that you're right. Poirier is next. But what I'm most excited for, and I'm hoping will happen, I'm a big fan of Charles Oliveira, but I'm hoping that this fight he has against Dariush has had to walk through the fire to get this close to a title shot. I hope he beats Charles Oliveira, and I hope he gets a chance against Islam because I think matchup-wise, he poses the biggest threat to Islam stylistically. So that's what I am very excited to see. If we see that next year, I'd be super happy.
We shall see. And speaking of Charles Oliveira, I know you're let's get to this fight night card because I have a little Oliveira footnote in one of these fights. So,
all right. So this fight night card is now for our third main event is going to be Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield. This will be a 7 p.m. Eastern card. So thank you, Dana White. We love you for that. So let's get right into it. We're going to just go into the main card. So Jim Miller versus Alexander Hernandez.
Hernandez, 13-6, 6 KOs, 2 subs, 5 decisions. Performance of the night. He's got wins over Cowboy Cerrone and Beneil Dariush, who was his first win. Now, I will throw out, this is the infamous fight in the sense where it looked like they were going to do a glove touch, and Hernandez ended up just clocking Dariush.
Yes.
And not to really crap on Hernandez, I know it's about, but it is interesting. Hernandez has won some, lost some since then, and Dariush has gone on a tremendous winning streak. So, in retrospect, I do think that affected that fight.
That also was Dariush has made changes to his style since then too. He would get touched and instantly just start brawling, and he's kind of toned that down a little bit since then too. So,
but Hernandez, he's got no easy task here. I think it's actually the perfect fight for him. Jim Miller, 35-16, 1 no contest, 6 KOs, 19 subs, 10 decisions, 3-fight win streak for Jim Miller, who's on the latter end of his career. Most wins in UFC history, most bouts in UFC history, most finished at lightweight, second most subs in UFC with Damian Maia. The only other guy that has more is Charles over there. I think this is a perfect fight in the sense that I think Jim Miller is very capable of beating Alex Hernandez. I think Hernandez is capable of getting this window. Hernandez's thing, I think, has always been mental a lot of ways. Like, when you listen to his fights, he's had confidence issues, I think, at times. Like, he sounds like he has confidence, but then when he shows up, he doesn't seem to always show up. That being said, I think this is a real crossroads fight for this kid. And as much as I like Jim Miller, and I'm always going to root for Jim Miller, I think this will be Hernandez's night. I think he needs to make improvements. I think he needs to start showing it, and I think he'll get it done. I think it'll be a TKO, probably round 2. He could get a decision, and it could be kind of a lackluster fight possibly. That's not really Jim Miller's style, but that would do nothing for him. He needs to really make a statement here. But again, Jim Miller is a veteran. He's a dog. If Hernandez doesn't show up especially, or even if he does, Jim Miller can get this done. So, but I'm going to go Hernandez, round 2 TKO.
Yeah, so like you said, Jim Miller has 3 wins in a row, and Alex is desperate for a win for sure. And Father Time is going to come for Jim Miller soon. He's 39 years old. He says he wants to make it to UFC 300, so we're getting close. But Father Time will come for him soon. But I think that he can weather the early blitz from Alex and get it to the ground and tire Alex out. Alex is a short notice replacement, so he didn't really have a camp going into this. So the likelihood of his cardio being able to match up to Jim Miller's is diminished. So
think about that. You're right.
I'm going to say Jim Miller gets it done, tires him out, gets a round 3 sub.
Okay, knowing that, I'm going to change my pick, and I'm going to go Miller. This is such a sad story. Now I'm going Miller submission round 2, and that'll be 3 fights in a row that Hernandez has lost too, so he'll probably get cut.
He really needs to win. I don't think they'll cut him because it's short notice. Yes, that's true. That would be his saving grace. So
yeah.
All right, we'll move on to another Connecticut local, William Knight. Versus Marcin Prachnio. That's probably not how it's pronounced, but I've never seen the gentleman fight, so I haven't heard his name pronounced.
Marcin. He is 15-6, 11 KOs, 1 sub, 3 decisions, and he's 2-4 in the UFC. William Knight, 11-4, 9 KOs, 2 decisions. He's lost 2 in a row. He does hold a victory over Alonzo Menefield, and he's 3-3 in the UFC. He's the hometown guy. I really don't know who to pick in this one, so I'm going to go with my heart. So let's go, Willie. Looking at these two, they both have a good amount of KOs to their credit. So I'll say Willie gets it done. We'll go round 2. When I don't know, I like to go round 2. So TKO.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call. Both guys tend to brawl, so this could be a matter of who gets clipped first, I think. And I like to pick the local guy, so I'm going with William Knight also, and I will also pick round 2 KO.
There we go.
All right, so we'll move on to a couple of heavyweights: Josh Parisian versus Jamal Pogues.
All right, Jamal. Hold on a second here. No, hold on, guys.
This is Jamal's UFC debut.
Yeah. Here we go. I do have Jamal here. All right. Jamal is 9-3, 4 KOs, 1 sub, 4 decision. He's coming off the Contender Series.
Mhm.
He's won 5 out of 6. All right. Josh is 15-5, 11 KOs, 2 subs, 2 decisions. He's 2-2, and he's from the Contender Series as well. So 2-2 in the UFC. I like Jamal. There's something about just coming off the Contender Series right now, winning 5 out of those last 6. I think this is going to be a good showcase for him. Should be a tough fight though, but I'll take Jamal decision.
Yeah, I think this is I think Jamal's getting a tough matchup for his debut personally. Yeah, Josh is 2-2, but he's looked pretty good in his fights. He's just gotten clipped, so
It's heavyweight though.
yeah, it's heavyweight, so anyone can get clipped. I'm gonna go with Josh. I think he gets it done. I'll say round 1 KO. I think both guys just kind of come out swinging.
Yeah,
okay. All right, move on to our co-main event: Jordan Wright versus Zac Pauga. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, but I can't remember. I know the guy's been around too. I feel bad.
Well, Zach he's 5-1. He's got 1 KO and 4 decision wins. I think he might have been on the Contenders, the Ultimate Fighter Series, because he lost his UFC debut to Muhammad Usman in 36 seconds. So he lost to Usman's right. So this is his first fight back. And it's against Jordan Wright, who's 12-4-1, 7 KOs, 5 subs, and is on a 3-fight losing streak himself. Jordan needs this victory, and I would say they both need this, even though this would only be Zach's second loss. But coming off that, making your debut and getting clipped in 30-something seconds, I believe, 36 seconds. So I'm going to go with experience. I'm going to go with Jordan Wright. I'm going to say he gets it done, and I'm going to say it's a KO, and I'm going to say, kind of like you said about the last fight, these guys are both going to be hungry to finish this. So round 1, Jordan Wright.
Yeah, is Jordan Wright the new Smiling Sam Alvey, where he can get all these losses and stay in the UFC?
He's got 3 in a row right now. Let's see.
He's lost 4 of his last 5, and 3 straight finishes too. Yeah. So I think the only thing that's keeping him in the UFC is that every single one of his fights goes to finish, which is exciting. Right. No decisions will keep you in Dana's good graces. So he is an exciting, especially striker. His nickname is the Beverly Hills Ninja, so that is also great for him. But I think the only reason he hasn't been cut is because he's never been to decision. So I think this is actually a good matchup for him, though. Zach isn't known as a finisher, and the chances of him making it to the end of 3 rounds against Jordan is very low, just because all the shit that Jordan's going to throw at him. So I think I'm going to go with Jordan as well. I'll say round 2 KO.
All right. Round 2 KO.
All right.
And that's going to take us to the main event?
Yeah, let's talk about this main event. This, it's kind of a mess of a card that had 3 different main events put together, but I think that this one is actually very exciting. So we're going to see Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield. Up-and-comer Erin Blanchfield versus proven winner Jessica Andrade.
Andrade is 24-9, 9 KOs, 8 subs, 7 decisions. She's on a 3-fight win streak, but her last loss before that was to Shevchenko, former strawweight champion, and she's tied for most finishes at strawweight with Rose and Amanda Lemos. So she's just the best of the best, honestly. And Blanchfield, she's 10-1, TKO, 2 TKOs, 3 subs, 5 decisions. She's on a 7-fight win streak. She's about as good as a prospect you can get. She's coming off a very dominant victory over Molly McCann, who has looked very impressive in her last couple fights and is very game. But there's a difference between a very game Molly McCann who comes to fight and has a lot of promise herself and going against Jessica Andrade, who's already shown she can hang, and she's been in there with some of the best. Now, she might have got finished at times too against some of the best, but she's also finished some of the best. So this is a chance for Blanchfield to really make a statement. She's got really strong wrestling. You're also going against somebody with really strong jiu-jitsu and who's really strong. So
one of the most powerful women fighters in the UFC.
Yeah, we're going to find out how strong Blanchfield is here. I find myself kind of rooting for Blanchfield in the sense that I like this up-and-comer with a chance to pull it off. I'm not dismissing her because there is this great unknown. Like Chris Weidman was undefeated, and he was going against Anderson Silva, and we didn't know what he was capable of, right? We had to figure that out, and he did good. Maybe Blanchfield will do the same. But until I see otherwise, I will go with Jessica Andrade, and I will go with a second-round finish. I will give Blanchfield the dignity of going to round 2, but I think the more she tries to take her down, she's going to get clipped here and there, and then she's going to probably eventually get tapped out in some kind of submission.
Yeah, I'm very, very high on Erin. She was my female fighter of the year to keep an eye out for. I think she can be champ in the next couple of years, but Jessica on short notice is maybe the hardest matchup outside of fighting the champ, Valentina. So after this fight, we're certainly going to know how good Erin Blanchfield is, regardless of whether she wins or loses. We're going to know exactly where she's at because Jessica is going to test her in every way imaginable, especially with her striking and cardio. She's going to push the pace on Erin for sure. But I believe Erin's going to make it to the end of the fight. I think she'll make it to decision, but I think Jessica's forward pressure and volume is just going to win. She's going to tag Erin up a bit, but I think Erin's pretty tough. She can take some shots. She's still young. She hasn't been beaten up, so I think her chin will be able to handle it. But I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade via decision.
All right. I like that. We'll see what happens. But regardless, I mean, and it is Andrade taking this fight on short notice too. So who knows what Andrade? I mean, it's actually kind of surprising that Andrade is stepping up to take on. We should give her credit for that too. She's stepping up on trying to take on this young prospect and putting her name and everything on the line. That has a lot of guts right there.
Right, because she arguably could have been next in line. This was probably, the number one contender fight, and she would be next without even having to fight another fight. She would fight after that. But, she's skipping the line. I'm sure she's supremely confident in her abilities to win, which she should be. She's, world class. So
absolutely. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So let's see. February 25th, UFC Fight Night, Krylov versus Spann. Super exciting matchup. And then finally, the return of John Jones, March 4th, UFC 285, John Jones versus Cyril Gane, heavyweight title. And then March 11th, UFC Fight Night, Jan versus Dvalishvili.
All right. Some great big fights coming up, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at